Welcome back to the Deliberate Leaders Podcast. I am your host and executive business coach, Allison Dunn. Our guest today is James Cluskey. He is a former professional tennis player ranked 145th in the world, an Irish Davis Cup player, a Guinness Book of World Records holder, and private tennis coach to the Sir Richard Branson. He is an author and founder of Give Learn, which is an e-learning company that offers both live and on-demand classes with global experts around soft skills. James, thanks so much for joining us today.
You're very welcome. Great to be here.
My pleasure. I love to kick these off with a deliberate conversation. So what would be your number one leadership tip for our listeners today?
Number one leadership tip, I would say I would veer on that work-life integration. So making sure that you're looking after yourself and recharging.
Okay, fantastic. I'm curious, have you managed to have that, and what's your number one tip to create that for you yourself?
Yeah, really interesting. I think in the early days of my business, probably not, but and still I'm guilty of overworking from time to time. But I do think the great leaders and entrepreneurs and business people that I've been around, one of the things that I've noticed is they actually do make time in their diary for, well-being, recharging, looking after themselves. And I think that's a real evolution in terms of, it used to be around, work 24 hours a day and that kind of mentality. But actually, I think that rest and recovery is so important, because if you look after yourself, then you're going to be more productive and more successful and more all those types of things. So for me, it's, yeah, creating that separation with work and life and trying to enjoy life as well.
Yeah. Thank you. That's a great tip. In your bio, there's two things I just want to, I know my listeners are going to be super curious. So the first one is, I didn't mention it in your bio, but what did you do to make it into the Guinness Book of World Records?
Yeah, so we broke the record for the longest tennis doubles match. So we played for 60 hours continuous tennis. We broke the record for charity. It was, the rules were you had a 5 minute break per hour. And how it came about was after my tennis career, I just, some people run a marathon or an Ironman or climb a mountain. And I just was chatting one day to a couple of friends, and a couple of years ago, a couple of players had attempted the record and not made it. And I was like, this might be a cool thing to do. And we decided to kind of give it a go and try and break for charity, and we managed to do it and raise some money for charity along the way. So it was a great experience. Don't know if I'll be doing it again. It was pretty hard, but I'm happy we were out the other side.
That's fantastic. That does want me to lean in. So a 60-hour doubles match, making it into the Guinness Book of World Records. What would you say would be the leadership tip you'd take away from a challenge of that size?
Yeah, I think the big thing that I learned was how important it is, the support that you have. So the community of people, whether it be the players on the court that we had,
Yeah.
slash the volunteers and the people that kind of, were with us through the record attempt. And I think the biggest lesson from that is, if I attempted that record on my own with no one around me, I don't think I would have been able to do it. But I think the idea that when you're in that group of people, that when someone's down, other people are encouraging them and you're pushing each other along, and you're fighting hard together. I think sometimes in business, if you're on your own, it's a lot, it's hard, right? So I'm not saying you have to have loads of people with you, but I think having those positive people around you that encourage you, whether it's coach, mentor, spouse, whatever it is, those positive multipliers or helpful people. I think that's the biggest takeaway.
Yeah. I just want to confirm, you said 60 hours. So the longest running doubles match, 60 hours, that's almost 3 days of playing straight.
Yes. Yeah,
With a
no,
5 minute break every hour.
5 minute break per hour. Yeah.
Okay.
So the record previously was 57. So we broke it by 3 hours. And yeah, the other actually interesting thing that happened was in the lead up, we had a guy who ran 40 marathons in 40 days, a friend of mine who came in and spoke to us. And he said, like, look, the sun will come up on the Sunday morning. The question is whether you guys will still be standing there. And that's something that kind of stayed with me a little bit. And actually, like, I like hiking and stuff, but I'm not like a huge mountain climber, nature person by any stretch. But it's amazing when the sun, like, through the night was very difficult,
Mhm.
but and we were like really struggling. But actually, when the sun came and we had, once we got through that, we got through the wall, and then actually the last 10 hours was actually not that hard because you'd people, cheering you on. We felt like we were on the home straight. So yeah, I think there's a lot of lessons in there in terms of business and life.
I'm curious, you cut it off at the 60-hour mark, which would have been 3 hours past. The other one, was 60 the call at the time, like we're going to play to this moment, or was there something that defined that for you? Like
Yeah,
10% more, like what?
yeah, we actually, to be fair, we could have gone a little bit longer if we
Okay.
wanted, but it was kind of the natural. It was like coming to the end of that evening, and there was people kind of waiting for us to finish, and so it was, yeah, it was kind of honest now. Like I was struggling a little bit with my feet. Like my feet were like very, very tired and very sore. I was happy enough to stop, to be honest. But like, it's funny, like on the Sunday morning, about 30 something hours, it was like, God, I don't know if we can do this. This is
The mental side of it. Yeah.
yeah. And then actually at the end, you were kind of, because you knew you were about to be finished. It's amazing. Like I've never ran a marathon, but I know when people talk about, getting through running through the wall and all that stuff. But once, yeah, so that it was just a natural kind of time that we stopped.
Okay. Um, obviously you're an elite athlete, and
Former elite athlete, but thank you.
um, was that the most challenging thing you've done as an athlete?
um, yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, I played a couple of Davis Cup matches, which were 5, 6 hours. Um, Best of 5 sets, and obviously physically they were a lot, like it's just different. It's just a different kind of, it's a different feel. I think tennis wise, I think in elite sport you can have, and in business as well, sometimes you can feel more pressure, like,
Yeah.
in terms of like dealing with pressure in a tight situation, whereas in the record attempt you didn't actually, you maybe felt pressure to finish, but it was a different type of pressure. So a long way of saying, yeah, it was probably yeah, one of the most difficult things, if not the most difficult things.
Okay. Well, very cool. How long have you held the title in the Guinness Book?
It's been we did it. It's like three years now, or maybe actually longer, 4 or 5 years. I always get mixed up with like the COVID years where it seems like a bit of a blur. So it was
Yes.
before COVID. It's like someone said,
Pre-COVID.
something is BC. It's BC. It's before COVID. So it was something BC.
That's great. And then the second thing that I just shared in your bio is that you coach, I assume tennis coach, but maybe I'm wrong. Sir
No,
Richard Branson.
definitely tennis coach. Yeah. Yeah, I've been very lucky since 2015. I've been going out to Necker to him, and spending a good bit of time with him, and then also in London, and been to a couple other places with him as well. So yeah, very, very privileged to do it, and like, as an aspiring entrepreneur, to be able to spend time with, an icon of entrepreneurship, and meet obviously some incredible people through him as well. Been very privileged to do that, and I think sport is a great. My tennis has kind of opened a lot of doors for me, so I'm very, very grateful for it.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, Very cool. I've met him twice, and he's just lovely. So
Oh,
I'm sure it's
cool.
way more
Where
fun.
did where did you meet him?
I met him at actually two conferences throughout the US, just on occasion. So it was fun.
Right.
It was a very brief conversation.
Amazing. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Um, you are the author of Advantage: Lessons in Sport and Business to Achieve Your Goals. Who did you write it for? And what would be your favorite um, gem or gold that you would like to share that hooks people to want to go get it?
Mm. Who did I write it for? I've been, again, I keep saying the word lucky, but I've been very lucky that the people that I've met through my career, through tennis and then through business as well, and through Necker and all these types of things, and so I wrote it. I think, like Richard always says, everyone has a book in them, and I think it's something that I wanted to share the lessons that I learned from people, and I would journal a lot. So when I'm on Necker, the people I meet, I take down little kind of nuggets of information. Um, so I kind of wrote it in that, and I wrote it in COVID as well, and like the first lockdown in Ireland, which our lockdown was quite severe, like in terms of you couldn't basically go anywhere outside your house, and so it gave me the opportunity to do that. In terms of nuggets in it, I think people probably, in terms of Richard stuff, or people like, um, there's a great person I met actually. Dr. Betty Uribe is her name, and she was the president of California Bank, and it's kind of back maybe to a previous person I said, but she said, in terms of who's on your internal board, was the concept that she introduced me to. And I said to her, "What's an internal board?" And she said, companies have their non-execs and their directors and chairmans and chairpersons and all those types of things. But actually, James Cluskey Inc., who's on your board, who are the people that you can go to and ask for advice, and ask for mentorship and coaching and all those types of things. And I think, again, sometimes we try and do things on our own, and that quote from, I think it's Tony Robbins, that success leaves clues, and you should listen to podcasts like this, and go and read books and all those types of things, and try and take the lessons from that. And I think that's one of the things that stood out for me in terms of my lessons from Betty specifically.
Okay, fantastic. I'm curious, how many people are on James's board?
Oh, I've a good number of people. I had a call yesterday with a friend who I met through Necker as well, and through Richard, and he's a successful entrepreneur who's scaled a number of businesses. And I talked to him once a month, and I ask him for his advice, and he challenges me on my thinking, and so I think I've people in different areas, different industries, different walks of life. There's a great book called The Mom Test, where what the guy says is that, if you have a business idea, you go and tell someone really close to you, and what do? They say, "Oh, your idea is amazing. It's great." So, but you actually need people to challenge you on it, and people to yes, encourage you, but also that kind of realism, and so I have a number of people that I will go to and ask for advice. And I think my lessons from different types of people, I think from spending time with Richard, is he's so positive about and so encouraging about believing in what you're doing and going at, and seeing something and going after something. But there's also, it's not like pie in the sky. It's also like you have to act, right? You have to work hard and all those types of things. But so yeah, so I have lots of different people that I go and annoy for advice, and I'm really grateful to them. And I think on the follow up on that, because one or two people I've worked with, they'd say, "Well, like, what do they get out of it? Like, what do they?" And I think, for me in tennis, when a young aspiring tennis player comes to me and says, "Hey, I'd love to get your advice on tennis," like I actually really enjoy that. I really enjoy supporting them and imparting knowledge and trying to help them as much as I can. So I think it is a reciprocal arrangement. I think people do. I believe in. I innately believe in the good of people, and I believe in people that support others.
I would concur. I think occasionally someone says, why would I ask someone to guide me on this or help me or become a mentor or be an advisor to me? Well, what do they get from it? And I'm like, the opportunity to do it, right?
Yeah, yeah,
An
I
important
agree.
data. Yeah.
Completely. And I think a lot of people are scared to ask, or
Mhm.
they feel. I remember, and maybe it's a when I finished playing professional tennis and I first went into business, and I worked in a recruitment agency
Okay.
for almost probably a year and a half as my first job after tennis. And I remember one of the young recruiters, it was my age, but one of the guys said, "I'm going to meet a partner at this law firm."
Mhm.
And he was incredibly nervous about meeting this partner. I was like, "Why are you so nervous?" He's like, "Because he's a partner." And I get it from his standpoint, but I think it's the ability just to be curious, and that people are people, and to actually treat everyone the same and all those types of things. And again, I probably picked that, I probably learned from Richard a lot around that sort of stuff. Um, but I think, yeah, people are people, and don't kind of be so overawed by someone's title or who they
Status.
are or what they've done. And
Yeah.
they like they're yeah, they want to help as well.
Mhm. Mhm. Um, in your book, you talk about the controlling the uncontrollables. Can you talk through that with
Oh,
us?
I said controlling the
Uh,
controllables.
Controlling the controllables or
Yeah,
controlling the uncontrollables? I just want to clarify.
it was controlling the controllables.
Okay. I said it wrong the first time. I
No,
apologize.
I was thinking, oh, what did I say? But no, no, it's controlling the controllables. I think it's a very common saying in tennis specifically, where, like, look, there's a lot of things that are out of our control, and but there's a lot of things in our control. So as a tennis player, the way I prepare for when I played professionally, the way I prepare for a tournament, the way I prepare for a match, a swing of tournaments, and so on. I can control, my gym. I can control my practice. There's a lot of things that are in my control, but then there's also things out of my control, right? I can't control if it's really windy. I can't control if there's bad line calls. I can't control. There's a lot of things that are out of my control. So I think focusing on the controllables is gives you confidence to take care of what you can control, and then being a little bit okay that things are going to happen, things are going to go wrong. And I think, for me, in terms of that transition in business, controlling the controllables again, there's a lot of things I can control in terms of my daily life, but then there's certain things we can't control. Like, and I know COVID's probably the simplest example or the biggest example of, we'd no control over that. But it's how you show up on a daily basis, and how you deal with that. And for me to follow on from that, I think in terms of mindset and performance, I think consistency is key. And I think, showing up, and that saying of half the battle is showing up, but showing up and doing your best and controlling what you can control, you're setting yourself up to be quote unquote successful.
Okay. Love that. And I apologize for misstating it. And
No, don't worry, sorry.
what was the trigger for your transition from tennis into business? And I guess really, what made you choose the path you're on?
Yeah, so the trend. So I got, as you said in the introduction, I got to 145 in the world in tennis. What I found, I came to a kind of a natural end where I was at where I felt I could get to. I maybe lost a bit of the fire of the travel and the playing.
Mhm.
And I think in sport and in business and different things, sometimes we stick a lot. There's a lot of people that are almost institutionalized by the sport, and they keep going for the sake of it. And I had really, when I played tennis, I always was reading a lot of entrepreneur books, business books, other sports people books. Um, so I just felt like the time was right. I found it hard to describe, but it was like the time is right. It was like a moment. I lost this match. I'd been on a tough enough run. I came back to my room and I was like, "That's it. I'm done." And it was hard. Like it was a hard decision to make, but I think it was the right decision to make. And then again, the ambitions around business and so on. And then the transition was um, there was a CEO of a company again asking for advice. The CEO of a company that was really into he was a CEO of a big company in Europe. He was a business coach and he works with and he's still a business coach and he's still my coach. He works with a lot of people, and he was really into tennis. So I asked him to have a coffee and play some tennis. And then we had this relationship where I would coach him tennis and he would coach me business and we'd have conversations. And where the conversations led in terms of values and what I wanted to do was I kept coming back to this, around purpose, around people and being at your best and mindset and performance. And so I kept kind of coming back to that space. And then initially, as I said, I did a little bit in recruitment because I thought, oh, I love people. I love connecting people. I really like recruitment. But then I wasn't like, I'm not sure if this is actually for me. And again, working with him, I came back to that kind of executive coaching, um, leadership, mindset, high performance space. So that's kind of how it evolved along the track, essentially.
Okay, fantastic. Um, let's see. What do you think is the most important thing when you say you're focusing around helping people? What are you focusing on inside of your business to help
Yeah.
them have the right impact?
Yeah. So Give Learn it's an online learning solution for particularly small businesses. So we have a full calendar of classes all around soft skill development. So leadership, presentation skills, communications, and so on. We have our course leaders are people we have astronauts, rocket scientists, entrepreneurs, and so on. So really interesting people. And what we focus on is really inspiring employees, focusing on building employee engagement through that by companies give learn to their employees, really valuing their employees. So we have a full solution around that. And then for me, my vision was always to link learning to doing good in the world. So what we do is we reward our users. So users earn points for attending our classes, and then they can use those points to donate to different social causes. So the vision was that a user will invest in their personal professional development. They're doing good for themselves, but then they're doing good for someone else somewhere else. And that's really what we're focused on building out. So I can't remember what the full part of the question was, so I'm not sure if I answered that.
You have answered that on how you do that, and I just want to like synergistically point out, and I know that maybe some of our listeners might not know what we're talking about, but
Okay.
we are also B1G1 members, so Business for Good, which I
Very good.
noticed that you are as
Yes.
well, and making that connection of when you do business, you're doing business for good. And I just, that speaks to my heart. And obviously it speaks to yours as well. So listeners, if you don't know what B1G1 is, I encourage you to ask me or ask James or reach out to me and I'll connect you with B1G1. So
Amazing. So just to say on that, actually, so my business actually, so when I was on Necker, one of the times I was there, one of they had these events where they bring in different speakers and different things on Richard on climate change and solving all the world's problems and so on. So I kind of started the business when I came back from there because I was really inspired around it. But one of the people I met on Necker was Masami, who's the founder of B1G1, and Paul.
Which we are not related. Paul Dunn also has come to speak in Boise, and we're not related, although he might admit we are, but we're not.
Okay, great. Well, yeah, I just thought it was amazing, and I think it's amazing what they do, and I love the concept. And what we did was initially with Give Learn was we picked a social cause every month, but now our users can pick a social cause from B1G1 that they can donate to, and and it's all, as I said, linking that learning. So you're investing in yourself, but then you're doing good for someone else somewhere else. So yeah, really excited about what we're doing and building out.
Yeah, wonderful. So I love that synergy. James, I just want to make sure as we wrap up, what is the best way for people to connect with you, where to find your book?
Yeah, so the best way to connect with me is through LinkedIn. So James Cluskey, it's Cluskey, or my email is j.cluskey@givelearn.net if you want to connect with me. And then if you want to have a look at our website and platform and so on, so it's givelearn.net. And so that's givelearn.net. Although Irish people say or, our letter or, very differently to Americans. So.
Well, James, thank you very much for joining us today. I appreciate you joining me from the evening where you are located. It's been a pleasure.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.